Welcome to Spartez Office. Spartez is an IT company working closely with Atlassian, actually being a contractor for Atlassian. Atlassian is a company famous for products like JIRA and Confluence. You might have heard about them. I'm going to deliver this presentation about product management. I have to admit it's mostly focused on product management within an IT organization. However, for those of you who want to extrapolate from this to other domains, other markets, I think most of these observations and findings actually can be easily translated into other markets. And I'm going to focus on talking to customers on one of the elements of product management. So a few words about myself first. First of all, well, my name is Bartek. You can contact me using these two email addresses if you need any more help, just follow up or comments after that. I am working in IT business for almost 15 years now. And I have started, first of all, I finished Technical University of Gdańsk here with the degree of master as a developer. And for the first half of my career, I was a Java developer. And I started in a small company called Adlex, which was later acquired by a larger company called CompuWare. And after the acquisition, I actually helped with the transition between these two companies, with the transition of the knowledge, of the processes, of the software, of everything. And sort of starting as a typical developer, really introvert in a way. Working within a small, desk somewhere, not talking to anyone. And after being exposed during that transition to customers, to different groups within the organization, I have decided that there's probably a lot more fun in actually talking to other people. So after this process of transition finished, I decided that I want to try something else in my career. And I started pursuing other opportunities, and I have ended up as a product manager, which I'm doing with some detours on the way, which I'm doing for the last over 6 years. So this is about myself. Now, product management. Product management is not something that is really well taught to students of Technical University of Gdańsk, at least, to the students that later become IT specialists. The focus that is currently, the focus that the universities have is really on technology, on becoming really efficient in coding, and in some cases, to some extent, in project management. Now, you might have noticed there is a sort of vocabulary difference here, product management and project management, and there's actually quite a significant difference between these two roles, which is quite often mixed and just sort of associated with each other, because the abbreviation of these two functions is PM, and actually even more functions have the same abbreviation, problem manager or portfolio manager, and people often think that this is pretty much the same thing, which is not true. So let me show you what the difference really is. If we were to draw a table, and I know that students really love the tables, and every technical mind really loves the table because it gives you like a really comparison. So the project manager is really focused on those three things: on the process, on the schedule, and on the team. So you can actually define these in a bit different language. You can say there is a process and there is a budget, and within these two significant terms, project manager operates. So in simple words, the role of a project manager is to make sure that the project is delivered within a specific budget defined as a team, as a time, as hardware resources by specific team. However, the focus of a product manager is totally different. Product manager, in fact, focuses on the product, on what is being delivered, and this is the ultimate goal of the product manager, to have the goal reached, the product reached, to have the offer. And instead of focusing on the internal team that actually delivers the product, product manager focus on customers and on the markets. So as a consequence, these two people quite often are in conflict, because just giving a quick example, product manager says we need to deliver this product regardless of the process, because the goal is to have the product. I don't care how you do that, I want the product to be ready. And project manager says that's exactly opposite to what I have to do. I have to follow the process, and the product will be a consequence of the process. So there's a tension, a sort of a conflict between these two people. Now, the truth is that in many organizations, the same person actually performs these two roles. So there's a constant battle within the head of that person. Should I really focus on the project today, or should I, on a schedule, or should I really focus on delivering something that makes sense? So, for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to focus on product management. Just by the way, I know that some of you have project management background. There's no intention here to upset you in any way. These are going to be neutral observations. Okay, good. All right. Some cheesy graphics here. A question to you. If Mario here in the middle was a product manager, who do you think are the main 4 groups of people that product manager talks to? Customers. You have read the title of the presentation. Yes. What else? Clients. Clients, customers, yeah. Any other ideas?
Marketing.
Very good. Okay.
Production.
Yeah, there are probably 4 different groups, and just by the way, this graph doesn't indicate any sort of hierarchy. Right? So of course there is a management involved, and there are different inputs depending on the level of management. But just sort of group-wise or focus-wise, there are probably 4 main groups of people that product manager talks to. So there are customers, obviously. There's a sales team. There is a marketing team, and of course there is a lab. And in the lab we have developers, we have testers, we have technical writers, we have everyone that actually builds the product, the physical product that we do. In some organizations, depending on the size, some of these roles might be reduced to almost nothing. Especially in small organizations, usually these 3 people, even including product manager, are the same one. Now, you might have noticed already that product manager in all these sort of 5 groups is not the person that is actually producing anything. The role of a product manager on this graph is to actually help in the communication between these groups. So in a way, to be a successful product manager, it's to be a successful and effective information hub. And that means that, of course, there's a lot of listening, and there's a lot of filtering, and there's a lot of building on top of what you hear. But that's ultimately all about communication. Now, there are probably 2 sort of groups of actions related to information processing that product manager has to perform. One is the analysis, and the other one is synthesis. So, how do you call someone who is good at analysis? An analyst. Right? This is a person who can produce information from bigger information, right? Reduce it to something that makes sense. How do you call someone who is very good at synthesis and can produce something out of nothing? An artist. Okay. So a product manager has to be both an artist and an analyst in a way. That was just a joke. Okay, so for this presentation I'm going to focus on the customers only. And of course there might be a follow-up later on, should there be interest in it, obviously. A few tricky questions. Do you want to talk to customers? Yes. Why do you want to talk to customers? Well, customers are...
know what needs
customers. Well, customers are the only reason why everything works. If there are no customers, there's no sale. If there's no sale, the whole business doesn't make any sense. And of course the product might be different. It might be a physical product, it might be a software, it might be a service. The point is that there is a recipient of that product and we are delivering. So yes, we want to hear what the customer really needs. But how do we actually do that? How the communication happens? Well, the answer to that question is really simple. Any type of communication that happens between a company and a product manager in that specific example and the customer is a communication. So it might be just a communication, just a conversation. It might be an email exchange. It might be a web page. It might be a forum discussion. It might be a, I don't know, Facebook post, whatever. Anything counts. So when speaking about customer communication, you have to take into account all those different types of communication. And of course, some of them are more unidirectional, some of them are more efficient, but basically the whole group of communication medias actually should be taken into account. Okay. This is supposed to be a bit of a lecture, so I'm going to share with you some rules. Rule number 1. Customers should be considered experts in the domain they operate in. This is nothing, there's no rocket science in this observation, but there's quite a significant consequence of that. So let's say that we are building something, we are building a solution for a company that builds cars. The solution, of course, has to be tailored for the specific need of a car manufacturing company. So how do we know, how do we learn about car manufacturing companies? Well, we learn it from customers. They are our best source of information about the domain in which they operate in. We should ask. In open text, clearly ask questions. Customers love to act as experts. This is actually, yes?
But you know, this stands in contradiction with a very common opinion that customers don't really know what they want to.
I'm going to talk about it in a moment, because there's some truth in what you just said, but you have to look at it through a specific colored glass.
Especially in marketing.
Yeah. So consider customers experts in the domain in which they operate. They are, like I said, in the car manufacturing company. If you want to learn something about car manufacturing, these are the people to learn from. They will not necessarily know exactly what they want from you, but let me touch on that later. Actually, let me touch on this topic right now. There's a trap in this statement, right? When customers speak about the solution they want you to deliver and the solution features in particular, what you should do? You shouldn't listen. Let me expand on this a bit. So, customers usually will have some perception of the product they want you to deliver. This perception comes from many different sources, from the past experience of customers, from the past versions of the products that you have already delivered for them, from just their own imagination how it should work. And they will tend naturally to speak about the features of the solution. They will want to speak about the GUI or the manifestation of the product that you deliver. GUI stands for graphical user interface. This is a sort of IT term for those who are not familiar with that. So they will want to speak about the sort of visual parts of the product. And they will speak about how they want to use the product, coming from their perception of what the solution to the problem is. However, product managers should never even dive into this. Well, that's in a way inevitable to dive into this at some point in time. But the role of a product manager is to actually discover this, to discover the pain or the actual need that the customer has. To avoid the discussions about how the product will look like and how it will work, but only focus on those things that actually will make the customer well, efficient in what they do. So again, customers are experts in their domain. We want to help them operate in their domain in an efficient way. Therefore, we need to learn how they work and speak about the problems that they have, not about the solutions. Not at this point in time yet. Let me give you an example. Examples always work. So a question to you guys. I know that you're quite young, but do you know what this is? You know what this is? This is a tape, okay? This is a tape containing music. It allows people to listen to music using their Walkmans. But there are several problems with that. There are several problems with the features of the cassette. So if I were a Sony company product manager, and you were the customers using the Walkman with the cassettes, you would come to me and say, you know, the rewinding of the cassette really sucks. You know, I have to wait for the cassette to rewind before I can listen to the music. And the cassette has two sides, and if I listen to the music, at the end of each side there's an empty space because the song didn't fit, so I have to rewind it forward before I can flip the cassette, right? And then the sound quality isn't the greatest. But I love cassette. I can put it in my Walkman and I can go jogging and I can listen to the music while I jog. So what would a product manager focusing on features do? They will improve the features of the cassette. Maybe make the rewinding faster. Maybe make a better metal oxide layer on the tape itself so that the sound quality is better. But that doesn't solve the actual pain, right? The pain or the need of the user is to listen to the music easily, in good quality. So what did Sony do? Do you know what this is? This is a mini disc. This is the answer that Sony had for the problems with the cassette. Well, right now it's a bit defunct. It was replaced by MP3 players later on. But that was actually the response, the very good response of Sony product managers who said, let's remove the problems of the cassette by removing the cassette. Okay? Let's not speak about the cassette's feature. Let's speak about the original pain. Can I listen to the music with this? Yes. Is there a rewind time? No. Is it compact enough so that I can go jogging with it? Yes. Is the sound quality better? Yes. Removing all the problems of the cassette by removing the cassette. Any questions? Okay. Examples always work. Rule of thumb number 2. A bit related to the previous one. Never give customers options to choose from. Let's say that we are speaking about the cassette again. Right? We were dragged into the discussion about the features and we say, okay, we can make the rewind time shorter by compressing the music, but by making the cassette actually, move slower, but that will impact the quality of the sound. Or we can make the sound quality better, but by making the cassette move a bit faster, but that will increase the rewind time. What will customers say? Customer will say, I need both, right? I need faster rewind time and better sound quality. So if such a question was asked by your team of engineers, we have two options, right? Go and talk to the customer to see what they prefer. There's no answer that you come back to them with. The answer doesn't make any sense because you say none of the option is good enough because they are contrary to each other and customer actually wants both. So never give customers option. Instead, validate if the solution actually removed the pain or addressed the actual need. Show them the mini disc. They will say, oh, this is not a cassette player anymore. Yeah, so what? Does it play music? Yes, it actually is. It has the same features, the same functions, with completely different features.
And what would you do if you had two options that just aren't good enough for a customer, and you don't have the gold one? What would you tell to the customer then?
Two options of the features or two options of the solutions, and none of them actually addressing the pain?
Two options of solutions that you have to choose from, this or that.
If none of them actually addresses the pain, that means none of them were good. So you have to look for the third one.
So you just don't talk to customer yet?
No, it's a good validation. You need to know it very soon in the process of building something. Because if you say, oh, we have two options, and you decide option number one is good because we feel it's good, and only after building the whole solution, you go to customer and show them this, and they say, this is just a bigger cassette. It's actually bulkier, it maybe has a better sound quality, but it's all the pains remain, right? As an example here. The pain wasn't removed, the customer isn't happy, you failed. Right? There is actually quite a direct chain of consequences. Right? It happens quite often that you actually that the customer says, you know, it's not actually helping me at all. It looks cool though. I mean, yeah, I like the product a lot. It's not useful. You know? Okay. Now we are going to dive into a section where we have tons of tables, because I know that it's easier than to sort of process the information. So the conversation with customers will actually look differently, depending on type of a customer and other factors. So let's start diving into this. The first section is new customers and existing customers. I hope I press the button. Okay. So new customers, customers who haven't seen your product yet. These are the people, oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought I pressed it one more time. One more time. Go back. There you go. Okay, new customers. Customers who haven't seen your product yet and are not spoiled by your product. They haven't seen the features yet. They will be more open to actually discuss pains. So if you go to someone who hasn't seen Walkman before, he will say, oh, I just need to listen to the music when I'm out of my house. It would be so cool to be able to do that. And they might also have good insight into your competitors, which is also a great feedback because, well, competitors will have their own marketing. They will try to put their product always in a good light. Customers who have probed your competitors' products will know about the weaknesses. This is a very good source of information. Existing customers, they will be more feature focused because they already come with all the baggage of the experience related to your product. They will say, I love the cassette, but there is something wrong with it, right? And they will say, they will focus on features. It's good to actually have to approach it in a bit sort of softer way. Some of the ideas that existing customers will have will actually be quite good too. Do not sort of, you know, invalidate automatically every idea that they have. Some of the ideas will be really, really good. By all means, avoid discussions about bugs, about problems with the solution that you have. And let me explain, because that's actually quite a tricky one. Usually, in case of bugs, they pertain to small defects in the product. For example, the casing of the cassette, I don't know, breaks, or the wheels squeak when I rewind it, right? It doesn't make the product bad just because of that. It's a problem that can be eliminated, but it doesn't sort of invalidate the value of the product. And in any organization, there should be a team focusing entirely and only on making sure that these small problems are eliminated. This will be your customer support. This will be your developers in case of IT fixing bugs. This will be your engineers, in a way, trying to fix the problem. What happens if you dive into bug discussions? You will not only start to talk about features, but about those features that are really bad. And you're not, in fact, someone who can help with that in a way. Well, you can make notes. But that wouldn't actually make the product in any way better, because that's not something that a product manager can help with. There are some bugs, though, that are so big that they actually become pains, the original pains that the customers are referring to. In this case, they are not bugs, right? They are basically the original needs that the customer has. So there's there's a sort of, it's not that easy to tell apart in some cases what is a typical bug and what is a typical pain. However, you have to be careful not to dive into the feature discussion, because that leads nowhere. That just builds the frustration later on. Any questions here? Okay. Next table. Small customers versus large customers. Small customers, in a way, resemble the new customers because they are need-driven, not feature-driven. They are aware of their pains, usually quite well, and they are usually super happy to talk to you. Why is that? People are usually happy to talk to other people about the problems that they have, if these problems are original and if they are passionate about it. Small customers, being really goal-focused, usually, they are super willing to share their pains. So that's a very good source of information. These will also be people who will be super honest with you. If there's something wrong, they will not shy away from telling you this. They will get to the point and just tell you that, you know, your product sucks. It just doesn't do what I want. Good source of information. Problem with small customers is that small customers usually do not have a lot of buying power. So you cannot focus on small customers only if you want your company to grow. That's why there are large customers as well. Large customers are usually process-driven. The process gets injected into a company as it grows. That's a natural evolution stage. And then people basically follow the process. So they will have a process implemented in their organization. Which will they follow? They will be checklist powered. I'm going to talk about it in a moment. What is a checklist? They will usually prefer to talk to large suppliers. And the reason for that is large suppliers usually also have processes involved. So they speak in the same language. They have similar fears, similar problems, and they operate at a similar speed. The process imposes that the speed is usually a bit smaller. And this is also very important. You have to understand that these people, their goal in many cases will be first to make sure that they are safe and only then solve the problem. That happens in many, many companies. Right? You have to understand that there's nothing you can do about it, and it only depends on the person you actually talk to whether they want to get out of their comfort zone and talk to you or not. Make sure that they feel comfortable with you, and then they will talk to you. Okay. So a quick summary. Small customers, goal-focused. Large customer, process. There's the process, which is really important. Rule of thumb number 3. Especially important in case of large customers. Always make sure you know who you actually talk to when you're speaking with customers. So for those of you who have management education, you probably have seen that during your studies. There might be a bit different vocabulary. I'm referring to these 3 groups of people as users, buyers, and power sponsors. So let me explain what that means here. Users are those people who will actually use your product. They will use the features in a way, and their pain is the most important element for you to understand. Buyers are those people who actually will pay for the product. In large company, that's not exactly the same. And power sponsors are those people who stand between you and those people who pay for that. So let me give you an example, just in order for you to sort of understand what it means. Let's consider a large company where, for example, let's consider a call center, right? In a call center, you will have a group of people who are actually performing the calls. And let's say that your product is a better earset, right? That eliminates the noise, that has a nice button somewhere to answer the call or to make the call. So these are your users and their pain you want to address. The buyer will be the VP of technology at that company, who will actually commit to buying a new headset, right? The power sponsor will be someone who is asked by the buyer to scan the market for a better solution to address the pain of the users. This might not necessarily be someone who is asked, but someone who you reach when you want to sell the product. So it might be an inbox of someone who receives all the offers for the new solutions. The point is, let me flip the slide. Well, actually, I said that already, right? The point is that even though you're addressing a pain of a user, you have to know how to talk to sponsors and to users and to power sponsors, because they are those who ultimately are involved in decision making about the buy. Okay? In large companies, this is also usually true. Those who are actually using the software, well, software or solution, are usually not who are paying for that, right? Before I dive into the checklist, there is a rule number 4. So, when communicating anything to anyone, you of course know that words are powerful, right? They're really powerful. However, in case of talking with large companies, some words are actually special, they are magical. So what does it mean? I have mentioned the word checklist already. So if you talk to a large company, those people, before they make any buying decision, they will, again, I'm going back to the us covering scenario, they will make sure that they are safe. And in order to make sure that you are safe, you need to check whether the product that which you want to buy or are about to buy meets certain standards. So, an example. Let's say you want to sell a solution to a bank. And the bank will usually have a large checklist saying, this needs to be secure. This needs to be auditable, right? Something that I can trace back who used that. This needs to follow the standard ABC-1 to 3, right? These are the magical words. Of course, these words can be said in a different way. If you say, there is a log of operations that everyone can see later on, this means exactly the same thing as audit, but it doesn't use the word audit, right? And the word audit in that very case will be magical. So you have to be aware of what are the potential magical words for the specific market in which you're operating, in which the customer is operating. That implies that you need to understand the domain in which the customer operates in slightly before you actually talk to these customers. So it's usually good to start with small ones who are super happy to share with you everything. And only then start talking to large ones, because then you will have some background already. Be aware that these guys are usually under pressure. There's this us covering I have mentioned. In case of banks, this might be even some criminal consequences should they not follow certain standards. So they are under pressure, you need to understand that. Some things will not be rational. I mentioned the auditing, but you have to remember that checklists are updated every now and then. If you happen to talk to the customer at the moment in time, right before the checklist is updated, they might use outdated checklists, not rational checklists. As an example, some time ago, I think it was like 3 years ago, the largest national social security company in Poland has purchased, I don't know, 7 million floppy disks, right? Because they had a floppy equals backup safety on their checklist. It doesn't make any sense. It's not rational these days. But that's the type of a situation. It's an extreme situation, of course, right? Because there's probably something else happened there, right? But I'm just want you to be aware that in some cases the rational aspect will not be present. Do not try to fight with it, because the only thing that you will that will be the consequence of such a fight is that they will push you back. And finally, the magic words, they work on sponsors and power sponsors. I have used the word sponsor here equal to buyer. It's sometimes in different literature you might find the different words there. Magic words works for buyers and they work for power sponsors. So those who sponsor your access to the power. But users are usually immune because they are aware of their pain. They are not so much process focused, they are aware of what they actually need to do. Any questions? This one.
Well, I have one question about users and power sponsor.
Yep.
Because, as you said, I guess power sponsor not always uses the product, only buys it. So is it like that that you should, when you can, you should try to omit power sponsor and talk direct users on?
So the way how it works is that buyers or power sponsors, they make a final decision, but they usually make that decision together with the users, at least in a healthy organization. In order for you to be absolutely sure that you know what you're delivering and talking about, you should always ask for the domain, you should always ask the domain questions. Let's say that you go to this car manufacturing company and you're talking with the VP of engineering. He might know about the specific technical engineering need of the engineers, but what will happen is, should you start asking these difficult technical questions, he will say, let me invite someone from engineering. And this is the path to actually talking to users. Do not try to omit the sponsors and the power sponsors and buyers because, well, ultimately they make the final decision. If you try to omit them, they will basically block you as a consequence. Have a knowledge of the process that, well, and the situation there, that, you know, they pay, someone else is going to use it. You address the pain of the user, but someone who is paying needs to pay, right? I'm not sure if I have answered your question, but yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Another table. Customers that are direct and customers that are indirect. First case is actually super easy. You have a customer who is actually going to use your product. However, in some cases, what you build is not only the product, but also a platform that allows other parties to build their products on top. Let me give you an example. Facebook. Facebook gives some features to the users, but it also has a platform on which other companies can build additions to the Facebook, right? Additional features. I don't know, photo albums as an example, right? They can be added to Facebook. So what you have to do as a product manager in such a situation, of course, there are two ways, right? First of all, you can build the solution for the end user, for the direct user yourself. In many cases, you will not have budget for that, you will not have time for that, you will not want to risk doing that, but there are many factors that will sort of keep you from doing that. Building a platform allows others to test the solution for you. But that sort of builds this wall between you and the actual end user. So, how to build a platform that is good? So, of course, if you talk to, if you do not talk to the platform users, the answer will be, well, the platform needs to have everything that I have for myself, but exposed to the platform builders. Say, if a Facebook has a number of features, access to a database, access to the CPU power, and so on and so on and so on, I want to expose everything there to the platform users. But exposing everything is in many cases not possible. So, and it's also difficult then to do because, well, the list will be long. So what to build first? What's the priority of the first element of the list? You need to have some form of prioritization and some form of knowledge what is more important, what is less important. Therefore, you should start talking with your indirect customers together with your direct customers, in this case, which are the platform users. Try to create this sort of triangle of conversation where you understand the end user needs, the platform user needs, and then build a platform that supports the platform user so that he can support the users. Do not shy away from that. In many cases, you will learn that something that you have considered a business outside of your scope is in fact a business within your scope, and you might want to add it to your own feature set. I am aware that this part is really super IT focused. So for those of you who operate in other businesses, this might not translate very well. But, well, I'm from IT, so. This one might actually work quite well across different markets. So we have two types of solutions. Solutions that are targeted for a specific named customer, and solutions that are so-called boxed. Again, super easy case. You have one customer, let's say Ivona is my customer. She has specific pains that I want to address, or specific needs. I build the solution that addresses her pains and needs. She's happy, therefore every customer that is targeted with the solution is happy, therefore it's a success. Easy case, right? In case of all the interactions, I can just speak to Ivona, easy. In case of box solution, you're building something that you can put on a shelf, and you hope that there will be customers who will want to pay for that. So how to talk to these customers who are undefined? Well, first of all, you have to find your niche in the market in which you want to operate. Find the customers, the potential customers that can potentially buy your product. Start talking to them, identify the pain, as I said. Now the tricky thing is that as you speak with many people, they will have different descriptions of the pain. Sometimes the pain will even be different. So you have to find this common denominator. It's quite tricky. It means a lot of things will have to be compromised as well. The thing is to be able to find the core of the solution that actually addresses the core of the pain. And the important thing, of course, is that you will never be able to talk to everyone. So there's always this topic, this notion of extrapolating from the knowledge that I have right now after talking to, say, 10 customers onto the other 10,000 customers that can potentially be there. Important thing, do it all the time. Never stop. Always validate if the customers are still having the same pain. Pain shifts, right? Okay. Rule of thumb number 5. And as I said, I do not want to upset anyone, but financial institutions are usually special. And why is that? Well, first of all, they are extremely process focused. There's always going to be a process there. They are extremely security focused to the point which can be called paranoia at some point, in some cases. There will never be a single checklist. Multiple checklists will be present. In most cases, you will not be told about them because they are secret. They will always complain that they do not have the money to pay you. And as a consequence, many of those financial institutions actually end up building the solutions for themselves. They are then able to follow this one, because the process basically is then implied onto the building. They will be able to follow the security aspect. They can have as many checklists as they can. They will usually pay more money building this themselves than as compared to just having someone else do that. But still, it's important to know that even though they complain about lack of money, they have a lot of money. So it's always a good target to talk to these guys. Again, I'm speaking from the IT perspective again. But this probably translates to other aspects. And financial institutions are not only banks. We're speaking about insurance industry, governments. Okay. Rule of thumb number 6. I like it because it actually says everything that you just heard is nonsense. And and why is that? Why is that? Because in reality, all the rules are, what do you think they are? They are fuzzy. And why is that? Because in reality, customers are
Special.
people. Customers are people. And you cannot put people in the tables. It never works. They will always crawl out of the tables. They will be everywhere. Of course, in some cases, these rules actually will be followed. But in many cases, just following the rules blindly will lead you to disaster. Okay. But there are certain things that you can actually try to incorporate in the way how you speak to customers. So always try to be passionate and always try to be actually humane about the way how you speak with customers. Picture yourself in their shoes. Try to feel what they feel, right? Be their friend. Be open. Be honest. Help them. And if you help them, if you want to really truly help them, they will as a consequence, they will help you. So I said that the rules do not really work, but there are several suggestions. So let me start over. Suggestion number 1. You have probably seen this many times. I have added one line at the bottom. So unhappy customer will drag 50 customers away from you, right? As a comparison, the happy customer will probably bring 2 other customers. However, if the customer is super happy, he will infect other customers with the love to your product. A good example is Twitter. From a technical perspective, Twitter is a bullshit solution. It's a solution that allows people to send 140-character message to the board and other people to follow that board. Why is that successful? Well, first of all, the original authors identified the pain in a perfect way, especially in Western countries. If you ask people, what is your dream? They will say, I want to be rich and famous. So putting rich aside, that's difficult to do. What does it mean to be famous? Well, I'm being followed by people and they know what I do. Okay, and there you go. When it comes to sort of Eastern countries, if you ask people, what's your dream? We say, oh, we want to be rich. So we say, no, we put rich aside. Okay, suggestion number 2. Always be honest. And there are actually 2 good consequences of that. Well, if you're dishonest, customers will find it really easy. They will know that you're trying to trick them. If you're honest, and if you clearly admit that in some cases you do not know the answer, first of all, they will actually treat you with more respect, because it's difficult to say, I do not know. It's against your own pride, so it actually deserves respect. But it will also actually give you a benefit of saying, let me come back to you later with the answer. And there's a new opportunity for you to talk to them again. Okay? And again, conversation is really important. So being honest and saying, I don't know, but I'm going to check and I'm going to go back and talk to you in a week, gives you an opportunity to talk to them in a week. Suggestion number 3. Like people. I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but it actually works. If you like people and if you show it, they will like you back. And as a consequence, they will be more open with you. They will be more willing to share their pain. And just by the way, sharing the pain is also against the pride, right? I'm not good at, I don't know, phone calls in my call center. I'm not happy with my Walkman that I have paid $150 for. It puts me in a bad light, right? So if you like people, they will like you back. They will be more open. Suggestion number 4. And I have to say that I'm really proud to be able to cultivate that suggestion here at Spartez and at Atlassian. I would like the whole world to be like that. And we use a strong vocabulary to say that. But don't try to fuck your customers. It never works. I mean, it may work for a short time. Ultimately, your solution will basically fall to pieces if you try to fuck your customers. Suggestion number 5. I have mentioned at the very beginning that I'm an introvert. So actually I'm not very comfortable doing this for you right now. But it actually works quite well in general for product managers, because product management is 90% about listening to what others say, and only 10% about talking. I mentioned this at the very beginning. Product managers do not produce. They actually filter the information, and they build the information in such a way that it's digestible by others. But in order to build the information, you have to have it from somewhere. You need to listen. We have actually an opening for a senior product manager at Spartez here. And some of the candidates come and say, when asked about the question, how do you know what to do with the product? They say, oh, I have a good intuition about it. Okay, that's a fair answer, but that's not how product manager should operate. Good intuition works in 5% of cases. In 95% of cases, it's just an intuition, not necessarily good. Listening to people will give you the knowledge about what needs to happen. And on that note, I would like to thank you with this final animation that I'm so proud of. And are there any questions? Okay.
Well,
Yep.
we talked about the magic words, and I wanted to go